really talking about multi-employer pensions. And in essence, what they are is when a union negotiates a pension with a company, they do the negotiation, the company agrees to pay in a certain amount of money into the pension, the union gets other benefits, but there's a negotiation that goes on. That union will then go and negotiate with another company, a second company, and they'll pay into the same pension system. And so and you have like 10, 20, 50 companies then that are all paying into one pension system. The union is the one negotiating all those payouts into those pension systems, and different employees might get better benefits or different benefits out of that pension system based on the negotiation, but pretty much it's cookie cutter. So you end up with a union who's now got 50 companies worth of employees in that pension system, and each company is paying a part of the overall liability. The problem is that the monies that have been put into the pension systems have not been sufficient enough to deal with the declining union membership, and so fewer dollars being paid in, the declining number of companies that are union companies, meaning fewer companies paying in. And so we're seeing things like the Central States Pension Fund for the Teamsters Union, for the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, is looking at a massive unfunded liability and is projected to not be able to meet that liability within the next few years. Now, why should we care about that? It's relatively simple. Under the current law, they would get paid about 20% if their pension went completely upside down and bust. They get paid about 20% by the federal government, the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation. They get paid 20% on the dollar. Well, here's what you're telling people. You're telling people who work their whole life, who are promised a pension, that, oh, by the way, you used to be getting $1,500 a month in your pension, and now, well, sorry, you're going to get $300. And what will happen is there will be a political upheaval, and most of those people in the Central States Pension are people who voted for President Trump and who live in the so-called blue wall states. So in 2020, this is going to be a campaign issue. And so I think we need to try to figure out a way to do this that creates some equity. For one thing, the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation, I'm really not allowed to say this, but I will. You're going to get a secret here. When I was on the labor transition team and we met with the PBGC, they told us that they had three concerns. They didn't have enough, they were broke, and they were broke. So the guarantors, the federal guarantors of the pension system, of private pensions, essentially aren't solvent themselves. So we end up throwing that whole system upside down. But so here's what I've come up with as potential solution. Number one, unions help to negotiate this problem. Unions need to pay for it. There's a proposal that would have additional kind of a backup fund that would be an emergency fund that would be created. And that money, any money for that fund should be funded 50% by the corporations impacted and 50% by the unions impacted, as opposed to the normal model where only the corporations pay. Two reasons for this. One, the unions negotiate these deals, and the unions are the ones who have been overseeing these pension funds. And as a result, the unions need to have skin in the game to make them whole. Secondly, the unions are spending money hand over fist on politics, and we ought to be able to drain that money they're putting into politics and force them to put it into actually servicing their own members, as opposed to playing politics with the money. So, and this is a way to force that to happen. Secondly, they should be capped at 50%. Other private pension funds get 50%, 50 cents on the dollar payout if their pension fund goes upside down by the PBGC. The union shouldn't get any more than 50%, just like anybody else. They will want 100% to be made whole 100%. The best that can be done is 50 cents on the dollar. And if they need to negotiate better pension deals with their employers for the next round of contracts, then that's what they need to do. Right. And then lastly, there has to be transparency. These pension funds have no transparency whatsoever, and they need to be fully transparent with full audits to make certain that the monies in there have been spent properly and there's been the fiduciary responsibilities have been held, have been done right. And if there's a failure to do that, the people who are responsible for that are held accountable and, if appropriate, thrown in jail. So it seems to me that those are some basic things that need to happen in order that underpin it. And it's the framework of what I consider to be a deal that, while it would cost the U.S. taxpayer some money up front, it would actually
not much
save the U.S. taxpayer billions downstream.
Yeah, probably hundreds of billions. Exactly. Yes. So if you believe that the Democrats were serious when they said never let a serious crisis go to waste, then you understand the value of this to them. I expect that there'll be a number of people on the left that would prefer not to find a solution, because they understand that if this whole thing explodes, it becomes a huge driver for a repeat of what happened in 2008, which is the case is made for why we need a liberal to run things. The case is made for why we need liberals to bust the budget wide open, why we need more government spending. We need the government to step in and make sure that these people's pensions, imagine all the sob stories we're going to hear, right, about what's happening to people who work their whole life. And so the pressure is going to be tremendous, and there will simply not be enough conservatives to say no to that. Many conservatives will not have the political courage to say no in the light of the kind of catastrophic stories and the, poor, pitiful me stories. So basically, I think we have to stop that. You never want to let a good crisis go to waste by heading off the crisis at the pass. And I think the things you talked about do that.